Welcome to Polkadot interview. Welcome Tommy and welcome Jeeper. Long time we haven't catch up, and I interviewed Tommy. I think like 1 year ago, and now you've started your own project. It's amazing, and I noticed your project, which is OpenGov.Watch, have received a fund from decentralized future grant. So what sparked your interest in OpenGov? Both of you can share your thoughts on that.
OpenGov is very groundbreaking. So we're building Web3 as a global community, and it is intended as an evolution of, I believe, not only the internet but also as an extension of what we can do as a human society. And OpenGov is a mechanism that allows many people to come together and build the structures or find agreement on how we're building this together. So if you're looking at Polkadot, it's this consensus system that allows different parachains to come together. But governance is the mechanism that allows us to come to an agreement of how we are mediating conflicts between those systems and how we can build systems that are offering a greater good for everyone. And so OpenGov is a mechanism that allows this, or on-chain governance is a mechanism that allows this. But OpenGov, I think, is especially good because it is so advanced in the complexity of what we can achieve with it.
What does your project aim to improve it?
Yeah, so we have a lot of people in OpenGov participating. We have a lot of people participating in OpenGov, and most of us are not really educated in politics. We are educated in different fields, technology or law or social or marketing. And so it's natural to assume that a lot of mistakes will be made, and we have to discover how we're doing OpenGov. What is our culture around doing it? What is the processes of doing it? What works, what doesn't work? How do we review proposals and so on? And so this is essentially a process of growing up as a community. And both Jeeper and I have backgrounds so Jeeper has a background in political science. I have a background in being actively involved in politics, working with a political party. And so we have backgrounds where we understand a bit of the processes of politics. And so we want to bring in that expertise and help OpenGov grow up and develop properly. And so what we're doing is we're doing two things. We're monitoring reactively, looking at what is happening and synthesizing, processing it in a way that we can feed it back to people so that they have an easier time participating. We want to make it easier that you can look at what is going on, have a shorter time to read up on what is happening, and be informed. And then the second part is being proactive. So we want to also participate in thought leadership. And we want to look at Polkadot as a Web3 ecosystem. And a Web3 ecosystem needs a set of capabilities. And only if all of those capabilities are given, then it can be an effective and powerful Web3 ecosystem. And to do that, we have to look at it holistically and look at all the different components that need to be active. And what we want to do is to look at it, see where is already activity going on, and then it's good. We don't need to change it if it's good. And where there is no activity going on, or too little activity, or there is not a sophisticated plan, we want to become active, bring people together that can find solutions, that can look at the problems, find solutions, and then maybe make a bounty, write a bounty that covers this specific problem area, or just initiate projects in that region of the ecosystem.
Jeeper, would you like? Do you have something to add? For the first part, I think you can talk about what sparked your interest in OpenGov and how does your project aim to improve it?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, like Tommy mentioned, I have a background in political science, political sociology, and I've been a researcher for like 7-8 years in universities in political sociology. So this is why actually more than OpenGov, Polkadot, I was very interested in Polkadot because it has the most advanced governance system among the blockchains right now. So this is like more personal, my personal reason of how I like it. And it's also like really, really good to see, like, even if you have very small dots. So let's say you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of dots, but still you can make some noise, you can still shape the network by like contributing, like speaking with people. If what you're saying makes sense, people listen to you. It doesn't matter if you have like millions of dollars. The only thing that matters is like contributing to the network, engaging with people, and then your voice can be heard. And this is like the most important thing for me for OpenGov. And for OpenGov.Watch, I think we can also make these small voices more like visible in the space as well.
Yes, and because people are talking that Polkadot is great, but it's hard for people to use. But everything is evolving, and more user-friendly apps and the wallet is coming, and more user-friendly a project for OpenGov is coming out, like OpenGov.Watch. So do you guys believe OpenGov can really bring about the democracy? Maybe you can start with Jeeper.
So democracy is so the same question actually asked to Gavin Wood in a Kusamarin interview, and there is this issue with defining the democracy here, because a network governance, especially Polkadot right now, it doesn't look like it's intended to be a democracy. Like the intention is more a plutocratic approach here, but like I said, I think it's already democratic in a sense, like small voices can be heard. So that's the important part. It's not important like one person, one vote system doesn't have to be like the most important aspect of democracy in this context. What is important is like how can you engage with the network more than the system of votes, I think. Tommy, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I agree. And what I would add is that very often political systems are a mixture of different influences or ideas. So what we can observe is there is democratic elements, there is plutocratic elements. So the power of token holders. There is also elements of technocracy. So the people that are building the technology also have a great influence and might decide to do something, focus on something, or not do something. And there is also, I think, also a good element of meritocracy. So what Chipo was referring to in that if you have good ideas or if you're making a positive contribution, it is valued. This is actually meritocracy. So being judged by your merit and having influence if you're having a good impact on the system. And you can always observe this, that every political system is a mixture of those things and other things. So I think maybe we can transcend this discussion of is it democracy or plutocracy and sometimes engage in a more complex discussion of what it is.
Okay, I think you did some research on community to find out what tech enhancement people want in Polkadot OpenGov. What feedbacks did you get?
Yes, I have some notes on this. I think the most common feedback, so the survey that we did was specifically technical. So we're having different conversations about how to improve OpenGov. This first discussion that we had is about specifically what kind of technical things can we improve about OpenGov. So it's a sub discussion, but one where it takes time because we have to ask developers to change things. And usually the technology in this case is the base layer upon which everything rests in a way. So what people have been responding mostly is that there is a need to be able to participate in OpenGov if you're staking in a nomination pool. This is the most requested feature, and it's very natural because right now you need about 600 DOT if you're solo staking, which is $6,000, and not everyone can afford to stake $6,000 and then be able to participate in OpenGov. So the idea of being in a nomination pool where it's much cheaper, you can contribute any amount to staking and be able to vote is a highly requested feature because it just allows much more people to express their voice and opinion. Another thing that we're seeing is the Treasury spend period. So right now it's, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, and this can be very long. It can mean if you are handing in a proposal and it gets accepted, and if you're unlucky, it can take 2 full months until you're getting a payment. So for people that are planning to be, or sort of have to be dependent on whatever the payment is to get the job done, this can be a hurdle. So this is also something that was requested to change.
Okay. Yeah, the two changes that you've mentioned is that really what I've heard in the community. So do you think this is one of the reasons that stop people from voting for the government or for the OpenGov? So our next topic, maybe we can talk about, how many people are actually voting in OpenGov. I've seen several proposals talking about rewards for voting, but no agreement yet. Any ideas on how to get more people involved?
I guess Cheaper will be having the better ideas than me. My impression is that it's a few hundred people that are voting, typically 100, 200, 300 people that are voting, or entities that are voting. Incentives. I have mixed opinions, but I would like to hear Cheaper's opinion. Like, I feel like he has a better answer than we.
So yesterday, Jonas from Web3 Foundation, he's a researcher from Web3 Foundation, shared this tweet. So in the proposals, we see like a participation rate among like 2% or something, but this is actually not reflective of what is happening. And Jonas made this like small tweet thread, and he's saying we need to calculate this periodic turnout, because this periodic turnout also considers like whoever can. For example, if you are crowd loaned, you cannot vote. If you are in a nomination pool, you cannot vote. So there is this difference between like total issuance, active issuance, and this periodic turnout. And from his calculation, he's saying like we can say like 11-12% of the network is voting. So this periodic turnout is more than what we see on the proposals actually. And we might need to even improve this calculation and look at the network from different perspectives, look at the participation rates from the different perspectives. What can be done is, incentivization can be done. I don't agree with, I wouldn't just pay people. I wouldn't support paying people just because they are voting. But for example, there is this new airdrop discussion with the new funding proposals. And if I remember correctly, Zeitgeist said, we will make the airdrop whoever is voted before this specific referenda. And this might be like retroactive, since there will be a retroactive reimbursement for like retroactive incentivization for the votes, like whoever voted 3 months ago is getting an airdrop. This might make people more active in the governance and maybe start voting expecting to get airdropped 3-4 months later. I don't know. It's just like an opinion. And there's also this traditional ways of increasing voter participation, of course, like doing some political campaigns, like making people know that their voice can make a difference, their vote can make a difference. Because if everyone is trusting, if everyone is thinking like, oh, there's a whale and he can do anything and my vote is nothing, then no one's gonna vote. But if people can realize, like by voting or by delegating their voting power to specific organizations, then it might make sense. Like, okay, my vote counts something because like 200 people, 300 people delegated to this specific organization DAO, and its voting power is getting stronger. So we are, for example, seeing Guppies coalition in this like way, and maybe some organizations might born like this and be influential in the governance.
Yeah, airdrop is a very great way for incentives because Web3 people, especially in 2024, the bullish is coming, and people like this kind of incentives. And yes, for people that who want to vote, if they can feel that their voting counts a lot, maybe they can be more involved. So, and talking about the proposals, and different people have different ideas, like and also people submitting the proposals, they're from different countries, and the different countries have a different living standards. So regarding on how much gonna spend on one proposal, and people's ideas varies. So are you more on the side of being careful with how government money is spent, or do you lean towards spending more freely? Who gonna take this?
We're going to both take it. I think Chipa goes first.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I am always mixed. I have mixed feelings. For example, 2-3 months ago, like in November, December, I was more progressive or liberal in the spending. Like I was thinking, okay, we should spend more. And I'm still thinking I'm leaning a little in this direction, because this is the start of the bull run, and this is a good time to actually invest in like marketing campaigns, advertisement campaigns, I think. But at the same time, I also think we should be conservative, especially on the like bigger asks. If the ask is like above 500,000 or whatever, I mean, because we see a lot of like multi-million-dollar spends and not maybe a lot of time to discuss them, or like we are getting a $1.5 million event proposal, but we don't see like if these events get quotas from different venues, like how is this getting organized. And there is this croissant joke from the last year's Decoded. So we also get some experience actually, but we are still like, what I'm trying to say, we should be conservative on bigger spends, because it is a lot of money. And I am coming from a third world country, so I know like what else can be done with that money. And with the amount of money that you can buy a venue, you are just renting it for 2 days. It just doesn't add up on my mind. So
Yeah, it's very interesting because Chipa and I have political discussions almost every day. So we often have different opinions. And it's really good to have the discussions, because this is something that I enjoy a lot about OpenGov right now, is that we're having fairly respectful discussions, even if you're having different opinions. And it's not always like that in politics. It can be very different. So this is something that I appreciate a lot. And so what I have to say, Kristen, because you mentioned this, is there is different standards of living and different expectations of pay all over the world. And I think that Web3 can be a great equalizer in terms of if you can provide the same quality of work, you should be able to expect the same amount of pay no matter where you're living on the planet. And because there is cheaper costs of living in some parts of the planet, but if people can offer the same work for the same amount of money, it also allows them to bring capital into their region that would otherwise not be accessible. So I think this is a great thing. So to answer your question now about my political stance on spending, I would say I'm for smart spending. And if we have really smart ideas, like really, really good ideas, we can spend as much as possible. The thing is, I'm very skeptical about a lot of ideas. And so this is why I'm also trying to dedicate my time in coming up with a holistic view of everything. Because if we have a holistic view of everything and have all the regions covered mentally, if we have a full mental map of everything that we need to cover, we can also make a budget and allocate and say, okay, we need to build this and that and that and that, and this will cost this and this and this and this. And if we have a full image of that, we can reduce the uncertainty that we say, oh, maybe we should spend the money somewhere else. If we get as much clarity as possible, we can be much more confident in our spending. So what we need to do is reduce the uncertainty, get more clarity, and then we can have much more certainty about the spending that we want to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Regarding, this is the, magic of OpenGov, because it's not a centralized party who decide how much and who to spend. And it's, everybody can decide. This is the advantage of Polkadot. And but how does other ecosystem this kind of job? Because I heard some people and friends from other ecosystems, they are still, applying fund from their foundation, this kind of stuff. I'm not sure that how the other people's, governance system evolved. Do they have a similar on-chain governance system, or do they have a treasury like Polkadot? Is their voting and decision-making process better, which we can learn from? Do you have some, thoughts to share about this?
Yeah. So there is a great diversity. I would say one ecosystem that's also fairly developed in terms of on-chain governance is Cosmos. They are having some interesting governance discussions. I know that in Cardano, they don't have on-chain governance yet. They're currently working on it. And they have a foundation that I believe manages the treasury that then in the future will be the on-chain treasury. And then, I don't know, one other very sophisticated governance system is that of MakerDAO. They have a very developed bureaucracy, I would say. So it's very bureaucratic, but it's also very interesting to look at because it's been fairly developed. They have different departments taking care of different responsibilities, and they're even innovating. So they had a very developed system, and now they are completely revamping it into so-called sub-DAOs. So there's DAOs and then there's sub-DAOs. So they're innovating. I would say where a conflict that you see in many ecosystems is that many ecosystems try to appeal to validators in terms of giving them a lot of power in the decision making. So you can see this in Cardano, for example. You can, I believe, also see this in Cosmos or in Aptos. You can also see this, and I think if you have a full proof of stake system, it's the stakeholders that make the decisions, and it should not sound disrespectful, but validators are essentially service providers to the network. And in Bitcoin, it makes a lot of sense because they're miners, they're securing the network, and sort of this is where the stake is in proof of work. But for every other network, I believe that validators are service providers. They should be respected a lot because they're doing a huge service to the ecosystem. But the decision should be lying with the stakeholders, with the people that have the token.
Yes. Jeeper have something to add for this part?
Maybe a very small thing to add. In different ecosystems, for example, in Aptos, and I think also in Cosmos, when you stake your tokens, you also delegate your voting power. So it's not a separated system. But in Polkadot, it's a separated system. You stake, but you don't actually delegate your voting power. You need to do extra steps just to delegate, or you can delegate without staking. It doesn't make sense, but you can delegate to another party and stake with another validator. So Polkadot is much more flexible and gives you the chance of this, like making these decisions in a broader perspective. So maybe just add this small thing.
Yeah. It's good that more people can vote for the proposals. But I noticed one thing, like for some normal users, they don't have so much thought, so they don't have so much power, but they love some project, but they cannot support it. For example, the Dota project, Polkadot invited them to our broadcast before, and the audience hit the all-time high. Which we can see that it is very welcomed and have user base, but they have made a proposal request some funding from their team, but that request might not go through. So for example, this is just one of the examples. So what are your thoughts on the challenges of getting proposals passed on OpenGov?
I can start because I'm more interested with Dota project, and Tommy knows. So Dota project, like my personal position on the specific proposal was positive because I was on the side of like, okay, these guys are saying they made 300 100,000 dots for the Treasury in one day with inscriptions, and they're asking 1/3 of what they made Treasury earn, which is like a very acceptable ask. Like they are basically asking the tokens that they made possible in the Treasury. So I was supporting it. I also know that Dota is like there's a similarity with a very popular video game, and these type of things helps in these meme inscription type of projects. So I was also supportive because of it, and I was a little bit surprised why it got nade actually. But there is this difference. So the reason that it got nade, and I will connect this to your broader question, the reason that it got nade was the anonymity of the team that is building it, and they weren't very active on the Twitter, like crypto Twitter, we call it, and not very active on the traditional governance channels like Telegram channels. So, and from my understanding is because it's more Asian community and they're active on WeChat or on their own mediums of like communication. And so as if we go to the broader thing, like how can you get your proposal accepted? The first thing is people should engage with the community on like on all venues as much as possible and make themselves known to the community even before applying for the Treasury. Like you need to build your reputation and make yourself known to the important, for example, these decentralized voices, delegates, or whales that like doxed whales. You need to make yourself known to them. You need to make your project known to them so you can get their support. So this is this political part. This is the lobbying part of the proposals. And the second thing is, I think if your ask is above some threshold, if you're asking some like money, a lot of tokens, then you should be doxed. Like there is no way to get $1 million, $2 million funding without being doxed. Or yeah, this is all I want to say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Polkadot proposal get rejected before once, and we got the same feelings that we should get more engaged with more channels to that more people know us. But luckily, we passed for the next proposal. So I hope that Dota project can don't spend too much time on WeChat and spend more time on the channels, other channels. So Tommy, do you like something to add?
Yeah, just a bit. So I agree with everything that Chipa says. One thing that I would like to add is that it's also one big factor is how you frame the proposal. So what do you write in the headline? What do you write in the very first paragraph? For example, the Dota proposal, when I saw it the first time, I said, I don't think we should spend money on inscriptions. But then when I was thinking about a little bit longer and I had a conversation with Chipa, I realized, yes, they made the Treasury a lot of money and they can get a reward for that. So if the proposal had been, in simple words, give us a reward for making the Treasury money, but maybe in more beautiful words, my mind would have taken a different pathway and I would have said yes, right? So, I mean, this is not a specific suggestion on that. What I'm just saying is that the title is just has a very strong influence on what the first reaction is. Yeah, because of course people are sometimes taking the time, but it's also possible that they read the headline and they say yes or no, and then they move on to something else because everyone has very little time to review proposals. So it's very important to really think about the title and the first few paragraphs and make it as clear as possible what it is about and make a really good value proposition, right? Because I think the team deserves a reward for generating revenue for the Treasury, for example. And we also see this in another proposal where we have a really good content creator right now, but the proposal, the initial paragraph, it did not really know what it was about, or it was a little bit unclear. And this is often a problem I noticed for myself. For me, it's clear what I'm writing, but then if someone else reads it, they don't get the same understanding. So spending time on this is very important.
Yeah, it's very good advice. So I think in one word, if they didn't go through for this proposal and don't feel confident, don't lose their confidence, just to make some adjustment and to engage more with the community and
Yeah,
try next
definitely.
time.
Definitely. It's about
Yeah.
reputation building.
Yes, it's great. You know, for the it's great that the suggestions both of you made for Dota project, and are there any advice for those interested in governance or submitting proposals? And you know, for those people, do you have more advice? You know, general advices for them?
Yeah. So first of all, engage with other people. If you make a proposal, a very big step is validation of the solution. So you have an idea, but is it actually a good solution, or is there really a problem, and is this really a solution? Because I think everyone, or almost everyone, who wants to make a contribution to Polkadot, there is a lot of things where it can make a great contribution. But sometimes it feels like people try to invent a problem so that they can solve it. So finding out if something is really a problem, and there is enough problems, finding out if something is really a problem is important, and finding out if your solution is really a good solution is also important. Talking with a lot of people, getting small circles of feedback first, and then when that is good, you can go to bigger circles of feedback. Yeah, cheaper.
Yeah, so I have some advices, like humbly, sorry for that. So the first thing is, I think this is the most important thing. We are getting, the governance is getting 3, 4, 5 proposals every day, and people doesn't have a lot of time. Like, people are spending maybe 1 minute, maybe like 30 seconds to look into a proposal. And so it's important to consider this, and like Tommy said, maybe spend some time to figuring out the title and be clear and concise in your language in the proposal. Like, clearly state what you want to do, clearly state like how are you going to do, what is the problem, what are you solving. And engagement is the key, like we always said in the interview. Engage with the community, engage with the stakeholders, engage with the voting blocks. We have in our website, we have these voting blocks, voting water committees, and all the social links to them. So these are the voting powers in the network. So engaging with them is important to get some support. Like Tommy said, again, get feedback, and post a discussion before posting the proposal if you are unsure. Like, because if your proposal can get rejected, but discussions doesn't get rejected. Discussions are there, and people provide feedback to them. And finally, if a proposal fails, don't give up, don't get sad, and just try to fix it and try harder. This is my point of view.
Yes, yes, I can agree with you more, because some of my friends come to me and they are not familiar with Polkadot before, and they wanna engage or get into the Polkadot ecosystem, and they try to submit some proposals. I think, you know, even though I encourage them to try, but you know, better they have to know Polkadot, you know, engage with the Polkadot ecosystem, then they can find the real problem. And instead of, you know, just thinking about it and then just submit your proposals. So I think the real contribution will be seen from the communities, and they will support them. And don't give up and try more. Okay, and as we wrap up our interview, and lastly, could you share your plans for the upcoming months?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the biggest visible thing that you will see from us is that we're going to release regular reports. And the idea is that it is short reports that you can read and you get an overview. So what we want to do is monthly governance reports. And a monthly governance report will tell you what happened in the last month in OpenGov. So which bigger proposals did get accepted, what was of interest to us, maybe if there was a very contentious issue or a big discussion, maybe a summary of that. So this is the monthly governance reports. Then there will be quarterly treasury reports, where we are just looking at what has the spending been. Next week, so maybe at the time when this interview is released, we are going to publish a Treasury report about Q4 of the last year, and then maybe even a summary of the last year. And so it will contain all the spending, and we will categorize it. So you can see how much is spent on development of the network, on operations of the network, on outreach, which includes marketing, business development, content production. And then a category we call HR, which is everything that revolves around upskilling people to Polkadot. So hackathons, incubation, the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. And the last category is research. So everything that is done on a research level. So this is the budget report that we will produce quarterly. And I think it's important so that we're not blind, that we're actually seeing where the budget is spent. And then when we have an overview about what happened in the past, we can make a projection about the future. And we can look at how could a budget in the future look like. So if we're expecting similar spending, what areas should actually be funded? And then there is something that we are calling governance initiatives, which is essentially focused points of attention for some amount of time. So for example, if we're discussing about developer experience in Polkadot, what do we need to improve so that developers have a better and more enjoyable time building? There is a lot of discussion around that, and we can gather all the mentioned problems, we can gather all the mentioned solutions, and then make packages. And so when we talk about the governance initiatives, it's also a view into this problem, and it gives you a list of possible solutions that we need. And if you're a developer, you can look at those and you can say, oh, I can build that thing. And then there can be bounties around that. And so the idea is to focus people's attention on those areas so that we can have focused areas of solving a chunk of problems. Yeah, and then we have a few other initiatives planned, but this is the rough idea for this year, is to really get a strategic view on how Polkadot is moving forward.
Great. And okay, thank you for your time, Tommy and Jeeper, and may everything about your project a great success, and may everything goes well in 2024.
Thank you, Kristen, and thank you for the invitation. It's always been a pleasure to be here, and it's really a good format that you're having here.